Close your eyes and let your mind drift, like a lantern floating on a dark and silent river. We are not hurrying anywhere. We are simply drifting into places where belief, myth, and shadow intertwine. The world you know by daylight, the comforting brightness of houses, streets, the routines of your ordinary life, does not end where the lamplight fades. Beyond there are other gatherings, quiet halls, candlelit rooms, empty churches where the cross has been inverted and whispers replace hymns. These places are not merely symbols of rebellion, but living organisms. They breathe, they feed. They are the satanic churches of the modern age. Some are theatrical, built upon philosophy rather than blood. Others reach deeper into hidden rituals, touching the ancient bones of forgotten gods. And some wear the mask of harmless rebellion, yet behind the mask they carry an undertow, a current that pulls the soul quietly, slowly, into darker waters. In this journey, we will explore 7 such churches, not as sensational tabloid monsters, not as cartoon devils waving tridents, but as they are, subtle, insidious, and strangely alluring if one is not careful. Listen calmly, for you are safe here, only observing. But remember, not everything we witness is something we should follow. It begins in San Francisco in 1966. The summer of love was blooming. The counterculture was alive with colors, music, and dreams of freedom. And amid that ocean of flowers and protest songs, another flower bloomed. Black, red, thorned. This was Anton LaVey's Church of Satan. Imagine the sound. Not hymns, but the low notes of an organ echoing in a dim-lit room. LaVey himself, bald head gleaming, dressed in ritual black, eyes sharp as if they could see through your soul. He declared something radical. Satan is not a god. Satan is not a demon. Satan is an idea. The Church of Satan, in truth, worships nothing. Its creed is not of sacrifice, nor of prayer, but of self. Self-indulgence, self-empowerment. It became a mirror held to society, mocking the guilt and restraint of Christianity, while offering its followers a philosophy of earthly pleasure, carnality, and ego. And yet, therein lies the whisper. When a mirror is held too long, one forgets that the reflection is not the self. The Church of Satan rejected the spiritual entirely. Yet its rejection became a kind of ritual in itself, a shadow liturgy where man crowns himself as God. Its members might laugh at tales of devils, but in the stillness, in the ritual chambers LaVey built, something else seemed to stir. For when 1,000 people gather to chant in mockery, sometimes the silence between words feels heavier than the words themselves. And so, what was declared an atheistic theater of black masses and parody still left a residue, a gravity, one that drew many and continues to draw even today. To avoid the Church of Satan is not to fear it as sorcery, but to understand its temptation, the lure of absolute self-sovereignty, the kind that tells you in the dead of night you need no one but yourself. And yet, what begins as empowerment can curdle into isolation, and the reflection in the mirror grows colder, more hollow, with every passing year. If the Church of Satan was a rebellion born in smoke and laughter, then what came next was something colder, something older. The year was 1975. Anton LaVey's inner circle had grown restless. Among them was a man named Michael Aquino, a military officer, a scholar of the occult, and a seeker who felt the Church of Satan was merely play acting. For Aquino, LaVey's theater of Satan was shallow, a parody of rituals stripped of its marrow. And so Aquino left. He did not simply leave, he received. One night, as he later claimed, he communed with a presence, a voice from beyond, not playful nor mocking, but ancient. It spoke of Set, the Egyptian god of darkness, storms, and isolation. Set, the desert wind, the breaker of order, the one who stood outside the cosmic harmony. Thus was born the Temple of Set. Picture it now, not wild parties or theatrical masses, but solemn gatherings, candles burning low, incantations spoken in whispers that coil like smoke. Aquino believed this was no joke, no parody. He believed it was contact. A true religion, not of Satan, the symbol, but of Set, the entity. Where LaVey declared, "You are your own God," Aquino whispered something more chilling. You may become as gods, through Set's gift of isolated intelligence. This was the temple's doctrine, that humanity could rise beyond its nature, beyond the cycle of birth and death, by aligning with the dark gift of Set. It was not about indulgence, but about transformation. Not the mocking of old faiths, but the forging of something unholy and eternal. But here lies the warning. The Temple of Set is not concerned with numbers. It does not seek mass followers. It is instead a current, quiet, intellectual serpentine. To stumble into it is to be told flattering things, that you are chosen, that you are strong, that you are not like the rest of humanity. It is a subtle poison, for once you begin to believe you are chosen, you begin to separate yourself from others, from compassion, from the warmth of ordinary life. Isolation is Set's domain, after all. And so the temple does not roar with flames, but hums like a low current beneath the surface of the modern world. Its rituals continue, in quiet corners under the desert sky, or in hidden rooms where the only light is that of a single red candle. To avoid the temple has to recognize the temptation of elitism, that hunger to be more than human. But sometimes, in trying to transcend the human, one loses the very spark that makes one alive. The year was 1991. Anton LaVey was still alive, still ruling his Church of Satan from the Black House in San Francisco. Yet not everyone remained loyal to him. Some felt betrayed, others disillusioned. His authority, which once seemed absolute, had begun to splinter. From these cracks rose a new name, the First Church of Satan. This was no grand cathedral, no thunderclap of rebellion. Instead, it was a reclamation. Founded by a former follower named John Dewey Ali, it sought to capture what Ali believed LaVey had abandoned: purity of vision, authenticity of satanic philosophy. But what does it mean to reclaim Satanism? Imagine a house divided. One room is filled with actors, mocking tradition with theatrical black masses. Another is filled with scholars, whispering in candlelight about gods of chaos. And between them, someone stands in the hallway saying, "No, you are both wrong." The path must return to its true root. The First Church of Satan was built on this tension. It rejected Aquino's mysticism, dismissed his Egyptian gods as fantasy, and it criticized LaVey's later years, claiming he had grown too theatrical, too commercial, too diluted. For Ali, Satanism was not a joke, nor a religion of spirits. It was a rational philosophy, sharpened like a blade. The church became more of a movement than a place, a loose network of individuals bound not by ritual, but by doctrine. Their Satan was not a horned being in the shadows, but an emblem of critical thought, rebellion, and self-responsibility. And yet, listen closely. Behind every reformation, every schism, there lingers a subtle undertone: obsession. For when one dedicates life to refining what Satanism should be, one is still tethered to the same shadow. Whether mocking, worshiping, or philosophizing, still the dark star is fixed in the sky, and one orbits it endlessly. The first church of Satan presents itself as pure philosophy, free of ritual, yet its danger lies in the mirror it polishes so carefully. Philosophy alone cannot warm the human heart. Its followers pride themselves on strength, on independence. But in the stillness of the night, one might ask, at what cost comes this endless detachment? For sometimes the most seductive abyss is not fire or blood, but cold logic. A logic that whispers softly, "You need no faith, you need no love. You need only yourself." And so, like a shadow born from a shadow, the first church of Satan became another path, quiet, intellectual, but still bound to the same flame. A flame that, if followed too closely, burns away everything else. Lucifer. The name alone feels different, doesn't it? Not the horned beast of medieval woodcuts, not the cloven-footed trickster, but something luminous, a fallen angel, a star that still burns even as it falls from heaven. Where Satan speaks of rebellion in raw form, Lucifer whispers of knowledge, illumination, liberation. And in the late 20th century, and deep into the present, movements began to crystallize, not merely around Satanism, but around Luciferianism. The Luciferian Church, and the wider network of modern Luciferians, claim descent from that archetype of the light-bearer. They do not shout against Christianity as LaVey did. They do not invoke Set as Aquino did. Instead, they present a path of enlightenment. The figure of Lucifer is reframed not as evil incarnate, but as the Promethean bringer of fire, the awakener of mankind. Imagine their gatherings: no mocking masses, no roaring chants. Instead, a slower cadence, ritual framed as a journey inward. Candles in a circle. Books of philosophy and ancient lore were scattered across wooden tables. A soft voice speaking of liberation from chains, of the courage to walk where others will not. And yet, the danger is not in the rituals themselves, but in the glamour of the story. For Lucifer appeals not only to the rebel, but to the dreamer, the intellectual, the one who longs to be different, to possess secret knowledge denied to the many. Their creed often blends the ancient with the modern, traces of Gnosticism, where the world is seen as flawed and salvation comes through hidden wisdom, fragments of occultism, Hermeticism, even Eastern philosophies, all woven together beneath the radiant mask of Lucifer. But listen to the undertone. The promise is always the same. You will see what others cannot. You will know what others refuse. You will rise above the herd, the blind, the asleep. It is seductive, so very seductive, for those who do not wish to see the world with greater clarity, to step into hidden truths. But this is the peril. Knowledge without humility can become pride, and pride is a cold companion. The Luciferians of today are not a single church, but many small fires scattered across the world. Online groups, quiet lodges, individuals practicing in solitude. Some are theatrical, cloaked in black robes. Others are quiet readers of old texts, speaking little, writing much. Together, they form not a church, but a constellation orbiting the fallen star. To avoid the Luciferian path is not to reject knowledge, nor the hunger for illumination, but it is to recognize that when knowledge becomes the highest God, it can be as blind as it reveals. For a light too bright can burn the eyes and leave one wandering in greater darkness than before. Lucifer, after all, is not merely the light bringer. He is the fallen star. His gift comes with a cost. And sometimes what we think of as illumination is only the glow of the abyss wearing the mask of dawn. There are shadows, and then there are abysses. The Order of Nine Angles, or O9A, is not like the others. Where LaVey entertained, where Aquino whispered, where Luciferians dreamed of light, O9A walks into something harsher, something that feels like broken glass underfoot. Its origins are murky. Some say it began in rural England in the 1970s with a man named David Myatt, a figure as elusive as a ghost. Others insist it was not one man, but a current, an underground stream of occultism that gathered around him. The truth is blurred, as if intentionally. O9A thrives in shadow, preferring myth over clarity. Their philosophy is not simply indulgence, nor enlightenment. It is transgression. To cross all boundaries, to shatter all moral laws, to erode the structures of society and even of self. They speak of insight roles, living lives of extremity, even cruelty, in order to evolve beyond humanity. For them, the path is not comfort nor even power. It is transformation through chaos. Imagine their rituals. Not candlelit parlors or mock masses, but isolated gatherings in the wilderness, nights under the stars, strange chants carried into the cold air. A sense of menace hangs heavy around them. Not theatrical menace, but the kind that comes when ideology sharpens into action. Unlike other satanic groups, O9A openly embraces the language of violence, extremism, and forbidden acts. Their writings encourage what they call the hard path, pushing the self beyond all limits, even into realms that society names criminal or monstrous. This is where the undertones grow deeply unsettling. Unlike the Church of Satan, which mocked, unlike the Temple of Set, which whispered, unlike Luciferians who dreamed, the O9A seems to feed on genuine darkness, and some who drift into its current do not return unchanged. To encounter O9A is to feel a weight, a gravity that pulls downward, whispering, break every law, cross every boundary. Only then will you become something more. But here lies the paradox. In destroying all boundaries, in tearing away all structure, the self itself begins to disintegrate. What remains? What survives? Many who sought to evolve through this order ended instead in ruin, in prison, in silence. The O9A is perhaps the clearest warning on this path, not because of supernatural menace, but because it embraces real-world danger. It is the shadow where ideology and cruelty merge, where the line between ritual and reality dissolves. To avoid it is not only wise, it is necessary, for its current is not a philosophy one dabbles in. It is a whirlpool, and those who step too close find themselves swallowed. In the stillness after its name is spoken, one feels the air a little colder, the night a little deeper. This, then, is not merely a church of symbols, but a reminder. Some paths are not meant to be walked at all. The name itself, Joy of Satan, seems almost naive at first glance, almost childish, as though mocking the severity of churches and orders that came before. But step closer, and you will find not innocence, but distortion. The Joy of Satan Ministries arose in the early 2000s, born in the age of the Internet. Its founder, Andrea Harrington, who called herself High Priestess Maxine Dietrich, began to spread a vision of Satanism unlike anything before. Not a theater, not a philosophy, not even a refined occult path, but a bizarre fusion of satanic imagery with conspiracy theories, pseudo-history, and dangerous ideology. Their teachings speak not of Set, nor Lucifer, nor even LaVey's rational ego. Instead, they declare Satan to be a real, ancient being, not a devil at all, but a god from the stars. According to their writings, the gods of old, Enki, the serpent of Sumer, the bringer of wisdom, are none other than Satan himself, rebranded as evil by Christianity. But it does not stop there. The joy of Satan entwines this mythology with toxic conspiracy, whispers of alien races, ancient manipulations, and, most troubling of all, threads of anti-Semitic propaganda woven into their fabric. They claim false histories, rewriting myth to fit an agenda of suspicion and division. Imagine their gatherings, not solemn halls, but online forums buzzing with strange claims. Young seekers, often alienated, stumble upon promises of secret truths, hidden histories that seem bold, rebellious, forbidden, and there, in the glow of a screen at midnight, they are told, "The truth has been hidden. Satan is the liberator. The enemy is all around you." It is easy to dismiss as nonsense until one realizes how such webs ensnare the vulnerable. For those who hunger for belonging, for hidden wisdom, for the sense that they are special, such teachings can root deeply. The rituals of the joy of Satan are often simplistic. Meditations, invocations, chants borrowed and twisted from other traditions. They claim to offer power, to awaken psychic strength, to connect one with the true gods. And yet, the more one follows, the narrower the path becomes. Philosophy collapses into conspiracy. Spirituality shrinks into hostility. The seeker, at first enchanted by myths of Enki and the stars, may find themselves trapped in something far more poisonous. This is the danger, not in the strength of the current itself, but in its ability to confuse, to entangle, to corrupt curiosity into obsession. To avoid the joy of Satan is to understand that not every tale of hidden truth is truth at all. Sometimes the whispering voice of liberation is only weaving chains of ignorance, and so we drift on, leaving behind this tangle of myths and false lights. The river ahead grows quieter now, though no less eerie, for there remains one last church in our journey, an echo of rebellion, alive and restless in the modern age. It is the 21st century. The internet hums, cameras watch, and culture is shaped not only in sacred halls but in the public square. Here, amid debates of rights, freedoms, and beliefs, arises a new voice, the Satanic Temple. Founded in 2013 by Lucien Greaves and Malcolm Jerry, the temple does not hide in shadows. It is no secret order, no hushed ritual in a locked room. Instead, it thrives in the open, on news broadcasts, in courtrooms, on the steps of government buildings. But do not be deceived. Though its name invokes Satan, the temple is not about blood sacrifices or whispered invocations. Its Satan is symbolic, the eternal rebel, the figure who resists tyranny, who stands against imposed authority. Their creed is built not on worship, but on activism. Imagine it now. Members clad in black, gathering not in secret basements, but outside courthouses, raising banners not to call forth demons, but to demand justice. Their rituals are often performances, solemn, satirical, theatrical, but aimed always at making a point. For every 10 Commandments monument placed on government land, the Satanic Temple demands an equal place for Baphomet. For every law that seeks to enforce one religion's morality, they counter with irony, protest, and spectacle. To some, they are defenders of liberty. To others, dangerous mockers of faith. But beneath the activism lies the same undertone we have traced from the beginning. Rebellion. Always rebellion. Where LaVey mocked religion with black masses, the temple mocks government with court filings. Where others sought gods, demons, or wisdom, the temple seeks attention, reform, and resistance. And yet, the danger is still there. For in building identity around opposition, in grounding one's spirit entirely in rebellion, there is always the risk of becoming what one fights. The temple claims compassion, justice, and empathy as its values, yet its heart beats to the same rhythm as all the churches we have seen. The rhythm of defiance. It is seductive, especially to the young, the disillusioned, the angry. Here is a movement that wears darkness with pride, that stands against the powerful, that claims to fight for freedom. But to avoid the Satanic Temple is to remember this. Rebellion, even when clothed in noble causes, cannot be the foundation of the soul. For rebellion defines itself by its enemy. And when the enemy is gone, what remains? The temple stands as a mirror of modern society. Half activism, half theater, half philosophy, half parody. It is less a church of Satan and more a cultural movement draped in Satan's name. But still, the undertone persists, quiet and steady, defy, resist, reject. And so, as our journey ends, the 7 churches stand before us like 7 mirrors, each reflecting one aspect of the human hunger for meaning, freedom, and power. The Church of Satan, with its mocking laughter. The Temple of Set, whispering elitism. The First Church of Satan, sharpening cold philosophy. The Luciferians, burning with the dream of light. The Order of 9 Angles, descending into abyss. The Joy of Satan, weaving lies of myth and conspiracy. And the Satanic Temple, rising in the open, draped in rebellion. Each promises something alluring, each hides something corrosive. And you, drifting with me through this long night of shadows, now see what lies behind their doors. Not monsters with horns, not demons in flame, but reflections of our own desires, twisted, magnified, and darkened. To avoid them is not to live in fear. It is simply to recognize the whisper when it comes, the undertone in the silence. For the most dangerous church is not built of stone or fire. It is built in the heart, when rebellion becomes the only God one serves. The circle is closed, the 7 churches revealed, the river stills, and the night grows quiet.